Over in the pages of Marvel Comics' current X-Men series, Nathaniel Essex, also known as Mr. Sinister, has been scheming something that's affected the entire X-Men world, starting by taking advantage of the X-Men's current home operating out of the nation-state of Krakoa, as Mr. Sinister has embedded his own DNA inside the X-Men's resurrection protocols, causing various X-Men to become influenced by Sinister. And this got to such an unprecedented level that the Marvel Universe spun off into an alternate reality called Sins of Sinister, where the X-Men are trying to carry out the will of Sinister. But the timeline has gotten absolutely out of control and spiraled into so many dark places. My name is Araco Braddock, and today let's go ahead and dive into the pages of Immoral X-Men #3 to see how bad Sins of Sinister has gotten 1,000 years into the timeline. But before we dive deeper into the video, I want to go ahead and encourage you to consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the like button on the video if you enjoy our content. And I want to go ahead and introduce this chapter of Immoral X-Men with Marvel Comics solicitation text for the issue. The experiment ends. Year 1 was the start of the experiment. By year 10, it was filling a petri dish. By year 100, it had cracked the glass and spread across the desk. Now it's been 1,000 years and the lab is filled by the writhing, pulsing sins of Sinister, and the lab staff have all been devoured. Everyone is in hell. The upside, this includes Sinister. And I want to go ahead and read off our creative team over on Immoral X-Men #3. This one is written by Kieron Gillen, featuring art over from Alessandro Vitti, covers from Rain Beredo, and letters over from VC's Clayton Cowles. The issue is designed by Jay Bowen, and we have a gorgeous cover over from Leinil Francis Yu and Jesus Aburtov. Here's a look at the gorgeous cover over from Yu and Aburtov. Really love the way that Exodus is sort of kind of towering over Rasputin 4 and Sinister over in this issue. I just love the imagery and how the book kind of directly uses this to kind of play off the first couple pages of the title. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the interior art over on Immoral X-Men 3 from Alessandro Vitti. And I want to give a big thank you to Adventures in Poor Taste for posting these previews so fast. And let's go ahead and talk a little bit about Vitti's art here. This page showing off kind of the full scope of just how large some of these Exodus clones are in the issue is just absolutely striking. Really enjoyed kind of this page in the issue. And I think Alessandro Vitti, out of all of kind of the artists who have graced some of these spin-off issues, is one of the most dark. Vitti's line is kind of very scratchy and very angular in the issue, and I think this is a great way to kind of illustrate how twisted and unimaginable the current Marvel Universe has gotten 1,000 years over to the future of Sins of Sinister. I really think that Alessandro Vitti is able to capture kind of a different side of Essex than other artists have with this character, due to the fact that I think, 1,000 years into the future, Mr. Sinister is now kind of well acquainted with some of his mistakes and is looking to make good on all of the things he's done over in the past. There's some really kind of heady violence over in this issue that I think is captured perfectly over from Alessandro Vitti. And really, I thought that the kind of red diamond sequence had a particularly striking set of colors and artwork as well, featuring, different alternate reality versions of so many characters that we're familiar with in the X-Men universe, but with a very dark sort of Sins of Sinister edge. Now, I want to go ahead and talk about some of the writing over in this issue from author Kieron Gillen. I thought Kieron Gillen did such a great job over in this issue. I love kind of the main hook of the story as we essentially spend almost the entire issue over with Mr. Sinister and Rasputin 4 as they're essentially attempting to find the Moira engine and undo the sinister reality now that Nathaniel has found that it isn't sort of benefiting him the way that he thought it would essentially throughout the issue. One of the main things I really enjoyed about this story was how Mr. Sinister met up with some other characters in the Marvel Universe that stretched a little bit outside of some of the X-Men books. I think Nathaniel's kind of conversations with some of these characters is super intriguing and kind of teases, where the conclusion of the Sins of Sinister arc is going to go in the near future. Another aspect of this that I really enjoyed was kind of the character moments between Destiny and Mr. Sinister over in the issue. Really think that Kieron Gillen has a great handle on the character of both Destiny and Mystique, who have been so kind of key over to the main pages of Immortal X-Men, and think that Kieron Gillen is so smart to kind of carry some of those plot threads over for this series, and to have Nathaniel Essex, Mr. Sinister himself, kind of reacting to some of these moments as well. As we mentioned earlier, the Court of the Red Diamond was a super intriguing way to get caught up with kind of various Marvel Universe characters throughout this book. There's a great text page that kind of explains how these characters are kind of, what their current status quos are 1,000 years into the world of Sins of Sinister, which I also enjoyed over from Marvel. And I was really intrigued by each issue of kind of Sins of Sinister having some sort of, tease of the Dominion concept. And I really think that this issue kind of was able to examine so many kind of plot threads and was able to really bring, I think, Destiny and Mr. Sinister's kind of involvement into the Dominion concept to be teased as well. I think this was a really kind of solid part of the issue and brought so much subtext to this story. When Kieron Gillen writes characters like Destiny or even Mr. Sinister, he doesn't tell you everything that these characters have in mind, and readers are left to sort of, piece together what some of the context of what they're saying is, which I also really enjoyed kind of throughout this issue. And I love how the Sins of Sinister concept is kind of taken, characters together, especially towards the last issue of Sins of Sinister, and has kind of shown you how their relationship with each other has kind of diluted over time. And I love how we get a bit of a tease of that over in this issue with kind of one of the core relationships that is dramatically changed by the end of this chapter over in the main X-Men series. So I'm still incredibly happy over with Sins of Sinister. I think this is a great X-Men comic book event in the way that all of these individual X-Men series are taking a couple plot threads here and there and kind of threading them together are super fascinating. I love all the different ways that this book has kind of interacted with these characters at one point and then kind of picked up the storyline a little bit in the future. If I could give one kind of key criticism over to this issue in general, I do think that sort of like the relationship between, Rasputin 4 and Mr. Sinister himself, it was already teased in the last chapter. And the fact that we went, hundreds and hundreds of years into the future between the second and third issue, I thought it was a little bit strange how issue 2 segued over into issue 3. And I think that this is probably just due to the way that this series has been designed to take place within kind of factors of 10 throughout the Sins of Sinister timeline. But aside from that small nitpick, I'm still having a wonderful time over with the Sins of Sinister crossover over from Marvel. I think there's so many wonderful things about this title, and I'm really happy with the way that, Kieron Gillen and some of his collaborators like Al Ewing and Cy Spurrier have really kind of pushed all of the status quos with the various X-Men characters to the limit. Even though we don't get all the X-Men characters in this one issue, they tease a lot of the status quos over on the text page and just through character interactions. So I want to know from you, did you enjoy this issue of Immoral X-Men as much as I did? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you guys one last time for coming to go ahead and check out the video today. We'll be back really soon to go ahead and cover Dominion. And of course, we'll be back for future issues of Immortal X-Men as well. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you soon. Bye.